So I try to do the same thing to my clients because they might be having difficulty. Maybe kids are not doing good, economy is not good, like maybe politics, and then you tell them something nice or ask something about their family, and then next time, like you see that they are doing the same thing to you, and they're like, hey, how can I help you? How can I support your business? Can I take a flyer, or can I email this person? So we got a lot of connections just because of saying hello, hey, you look beautiful, and I like that smile. Like even those things turn out to be bigger things.
How's it going, Berk? How's your day been?
Great, great. How about you?
It's been great. Where are you calling from?
I am home, working from home.
Working from home? Is this home in the States, in the United States, here in San Antonio?
Yes, yes, in San Antonio. So I usually, if I'm not in the college, like I work from home and then I go to my music school office like later on. So, yep, you caught me at
Yeah.
home.
And how do you like working at home? Is it as great as some people say it is, or do you prefer the in-office experience?
I like both of them. I mean, home is a little bit good because like I can see outside, and like usually like you see like some squirrels, and it's nice nature. At the office, it's a little bit more like, you just see cars, and I guess they're both good. I like
Yeah,
it.
no, I can see the benefit of both because at home, it's relaxing and you get to see nature, you get to be, relaxing in your house. But I can see how it can become a little distracting. But in the same way, when you're working at the office, it's you get the cars, you got some noise, but you know that that's your place of work, so that's where you're going to be focusing. So there's benefits to both of them. But
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm glad that you were able to join me today. Just to give you a quick frame for today's call, we're going to be starting up with some background and your industry, some trends that you're seeing. We're going to discuss your current challenges and where you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months. How does that sound?
Sounds great. And thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, Berg. So tell me a little bit about what it is that you do. You run a music school. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yes, music school. It is called Institute of Musical Arts, and I was working at the place until 2018, and I bought the place. It was a good friend of mine, and they were about to move, and I was always telling him to, you know, like I was always telling like, hey, can we be partners? Can I be like 20%, 30% in? And finally he came like, hey, I'm planning to sell this, and I do want to sell it to somebody that can take care of it. And that's the journey started in 2018. We are still talking. We are still like really great friends. I call him as a mentor. And it started like that in 2018. And we had, I don't know, like maybe 10 students or maybe 8 students. So we couldn't even make the rent, and from there we start growing, and I was getting more focused, and my wife Amen got involved too, so we were just working hard, and um, we are still good. I mean, we are doing good. The school is growing, and we had COVID for a couple of years, and we survived from the COVID and everything like that. So, I feel like we are doing good. So that's what I do. That's one of my jobs that I try to focus like as much as I can.
That sounds great. I think it's such an inspirational story to start off working somewhere. People talk about working up the ladder and they say, I started off as just a regular employee. Then I went up as a supervisor. Then I went to manager, and then I became one of the directors. But
Hmm.
it's not very common that you see somebody say, I started off as an employee and then I bought the company, you know? So it's a very inspirational story that I think many
Well,
people can
let
learn
me
from.
let me add one more thing, and I love to
Yeah.
tell this to people. I met with, the owner was Carlos Sanchez, and you know him really close.
Yes.
So in 2012 or 11, I was working in a Turkish restaurant. So, and I was doing my master's at UTSA as a classical guitar player. Hard times, like I'm barely paying my school, and, like working, I don't know, 40, 45 hours a week, and then doing masters, like taking like 9, 10 hours as an international student. You cannot take less than 9 hours in masters if you're a foreigner. So I was doing that, and one day Carlos and Angela, the wife, comes into the restaurant, and I'm serving them, super nice guy, and then he saw my nails, right? He's like, "Oh, do you play the
Mm-hmm.
guitar?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" And I started explaining I'm doing my master's, and he was like, "Well, I just opened a music school, or I have a music school, and I am looking for a guitar instructor. Would you like to interview?" I'm like, "Sure." So I called him the next day, and he's like, "Hey, can you come next week this time?" I'm like, "Sure." He said, "Bring your guitar." So I go to his office, I play, he likes it, and then he said he wants to work with me, and then he offered me a number, and I'm like, "Hey, can we do a little bit more?" And we kind of negotiated at the time, and then he gave me the job. He gave me the job, and that was kind of like a turning point for me finding Carlos, and he really helped me out along my journey. So I'm lucky to have him. But it's a really inspirational story because a lot of my friends like, I can't do a restaurant job, I can't do coffee shops, like I don't want to do it. But you never know who you are gonna meet with in your next, place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You never know who's gonna walk in. And so the idea that so you didn't even go from employee to owner, you went from server to then owner of the business, which is, I mean, that is unheard of. So I think it's a story that teaches other people that are trying to make it in that industry because, as you know, the music industry can be something quite challenging for people, as I've heard. And so to hear that you can go from nothing in the music space, learning, just trying to get off onto your feet to something greater than what you could have ever imagined, I think it is a very great story. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So you studied at UTSA, but you got your bachelor's at A&M, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That's
Yes.
correct. And so going into getting your bachelor's at A&M and then progressing to your master's at UTSA, what was your goal in doing all that? What was your end goal? What is it that you wanted to do with that?
Well, first, I wanted to be really famous. I had, just like any musician, you start listening to the famous rock bands, and you got yourself some role models. Hey, I want to be like Red Hot Chili Peppers or Metallica or whoever you like. So it started that way, and I did have a really good band called Mundo, and we were, playing 3, 4 times a week while we were doing our undergrads. All of the faculty members would know us, like, they will come to our shows. So we will be playing live, and we thought we were gonna make it, and then something fall apart. We both got into the masters, and my other friend Daniel, he had a little bit of anxiety problems while he was doing the masters, and he had to take a break for a while. Then he moved to Arizona, and then the band was done, and I was kind of getting a little depressed doing the masters because things changed when I got into masters. Like the instructor wanted to change my technique, and we kind of started as a beginner, which was a great thing that he has done. I can't thank him enough for doing that. But at the time, it was kind of off, so I kind of stopped thinking about being famous. I was basically in the survival mode, and I started playing at the restaurants. I was singing, I was playing, and I was doing my assistantship in my masters. um, and my goal kind of fall apart, and then I start teaching, and some other things came up, and then I'm like, okay, I will still keep recording and playing and everything like that, but I'm gonna see like where the world is gonna take me. So I didn't give up on that, but I was like, maybe this is my way, and maybe I need a little bit more time to get into that level. And I feel like I'm getting more known in San Antonio or in Texas or even Turkey. Like people are making news and like getting me, inviting me to different things like the TV shows or magazines and all those kind of things. And I feel kind of lucky too, because at the time I think my ego was super high. And like if I would be famous at the time, I don't know if I would have survived as a musician, or it would have been a little bit more tough, and I wouldn't be the same person that I'm today, because I learned a lot and I tried to become more humble along the way. Because when you're young, you're like, your ego is high, like you're like, hey, I created the world, I know everything. But the guy who lived 30 years more and who experienced it, when they tell you something, you're like, well, I can do better than you. So I was one of those people. I wasn't mean, but in my mind, I'm like, I could do better. But then I realized that, well, some of those people were right. I had to be humbled up, and I had to put more work. And I wasn't a mediocre, but I didn't put enough work into my musical journey. Like, I mean, like if you want to accomplish something, I think you got to put a lot of hours into it. It doesn't work just because you want it or you manifest it, but you got to follow through. And at the time, I was manifesting it and I was doing the shows. But as far as my own practices, I think I wasn't doing enough. So, and now I'm like realizing it. I'm like, okay, I got to try it again and I got to push more and I got to serve more. I got to practice more. So, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, what a great story. You're, I was looking and I found that on chart metrics, you have over 80,000 streams on Spotify. You have a 5-star rating on Google with 40 reviews. And then you have a 5-star across of different platforms for bookings and whatnot. So I think that all that hard work ended up paying off in the end with the notoriety that you've built up. But your story is one that I believe is not uncommon to other musicians who, they start with something and then they make it a little bit and then pride gets the best of them and they think, I'm going to make it, I'm going to do all these things. And then when something bad happens or when they hit a roadblock, they stop and they say, I guess this wasn't meant to be, but you kept going. And you kept persevering and pushing through. You finished your master's, you finished your bachelor's, of course, and then you met um, that man at that cafe, and the rest is history. So congratulations on a career that is, nothing short but successful, and now you're looking forward to many more years of success. So talking
thank you.
about the success that you've had, let's talk about your music school a little bit. This is what I think is very interesting, the fact that you've been able to take this music school and progress it over all these years. So can you tell us a little bit about your role in the school and how it plays bigger into the bigger picture at the Institute of Musical Arts?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I am basically the owner with my wife, but I try to do pretty much everything. So I do the hiring, I do the management, I do the bookkeeping. I'm also teaching at the school. So I don't know, whatever you call it, CEO. And, like basically whatever I need to do, I am doing it. If I need to take the trash, I take the trash. If I need to, shop for school, which actually I'm the only one who's doing that, except sometimes my wife does it. So whatever I need to do, I do it. So I own it, like I own the job like 100% mentally, So
Yeah. So you do a little bit of everything. You are what we call a Renaissance man. You do a little bit of everything.
I think so too. I don't think I'm good at fixing things. Like I am getting better,
Mm.
but yeah, but in a way, yeah, it's a renaissance man. Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
great. Well, I
Thank
think
you.
that just plays into your role in the company, is saying that you can fill all the hats. If somebody's not there, you can step in, and that says a lot about your character and how you run your business. So tell me, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, it's every day is different, but I'm getting better at it. So I do have the music school, but I also teach at Northwest Vista College about
Mm.
10 hours a week. So I do teach their music appreciation and I teach their guitar program. And I am also manager of Northside Music School, and I also gig at least a couple of times a month. My day kind of depends on what I have. Like on Tuesday and Thursdays, I am fully involved with the college because I usually take off like around 10:30 and I have to be teaching around 5 p.m. And then if I can do something in the morning about my music school, I can do it. But usually I kind of get ready for the college. And then after 5 p.m., I come home and then I try to work with the school, or if I need to practice a little bit. So Tuesdays or Thursdays, they usually like that. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's what I usually put a lot of work to the school. Like when I wake up, I usually try to get my emails and look at my list, and I have like I have a to-do list. So whatever is the important person to email or call, I do those, and then I take kind of a break and practice a little bit, and then I go back again if I need to do any flyers or posters, or if I need to call a client, I do those. And typically I get into the studio around 3 o'clock and I start teaching. And between the teaching, I again email, make phone calls, and I do the task from the school. And usually I finish up about 8 p.m. And on Saturdays, I arrive to the school 9, and I usually finish up at 2, 3 p.m. at the school, and I come home and work from home rest of the day.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say you're a pretty busy man.
I think so, yes. But
Yeah,
it's
well,
good. I,
across.
I like it. I enjoy.
Yeah, well, do it. It's that age-old saying of you do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So I think you're
100%.
doing that across different fields. I mean, you're an owner of a music school, you teach at a college, you manage another music school, and then you do gigs. So I guess, the guitar is your entire life. That's what it is. The guitar and of course, music is your life, and that's your passion. I think it shows across all these things. I mean, people work two or three jobs, but doing different things. And they do that out of necessity, out of going there and trying to get more income or whatever the case may be. But it's clear that you're doing it out of pure passion. I mean, nobody manages a music school, owns another music school, and does all these things if they don't love what they do. So,
Yeah,
kudos to you. Props to you for being a man that with that much work ethic. So,
thank
your
you.
music school, despite you being spread across all these different areas, has been quite successful. I mean, you have a 5-star rating. You are featured on the Kid City Guide for San Antonio, and you have a handful of students there, and your website looks solid. So I can imagine that you're getting a good amount of students in there on a month-to-month basis. You obviously have only 24 hours in a day, and you're sleeping
Mhm.
maybe 8 of them, and across different things, you end up only having half the day or less to actually work on these different projects. And given that your music school, you're owning and managing it with your wife, you guys are all working really hard there. What is working for you in the music school, and what seems to be kind of frustrating in terms of operating, in terms of, attracting more leads and closing different clients? What do you think are
Mhm.
some things that are working that you can say, oh, this is what we've been doing, this has been working for us? And what are some things that you can say, like, oh, you know what, this is kind of frustrating, I don't really have time for this, or
Mhm.
anything like
Yeah,
that?
I mean, like the difficult part is the time, like time management, because
Mm.
like I am a little bit of obsessed with time. Like I also love working out and eating healthy, and like I try to do everything. Get my sleep really well. I'm a big believer of that. But a lot of times, like once I have like multiple jobs, which is really difficult to do, and I kind of it takes a lot of focus away. And at some point, I'm like, maybe I should give up this, I should give up that. But financially, we are not in there. Like, I mean, if I would be 100% focusing on the school, maybe not even teaching, just like focusing on managing it, I think it will work a lot better. And, if you follow the other people that who are successful, they usually focus on one thing for a while, and once they get that going, then they are like, hey, can you manage this for me? And then they kind of move on. So in a way, that's the obstacle, that like this, that time management. Even like going to college, I have to drive hour a day and then come back, grading papers, and so that 10 hours becomes like 20 hours a week, and then managing the other schools. So it's like really, pushing not 40 hours a week, but sometimes 60, 70 hours a week. So that is my obstacle. And the other obstacle that I'm having is a lot of competitions, like I mean, you look around, like our location is on, Lucky Selma area, which is really close to Elon HEB. And, like when you look around, there's like so many other schools, and then everybody's opening schools. And not only schools, some people, like they even work from home. They're like, hey, this is a music school. They just put a banner, and people start going to their sessions. So it's really hard to compete in that way. As far as the pricing, sometimes you put a price, people are like, that's really expensive, like, why are you charging this much? And some people are like, oh, it's good, like you have a really good price, like other schools are like really expensive. So it's kind of hard to break that thing with people, kind of. um, like one thing people need to understand is, learning an instrument is a skill. It's not like a food, like you eat, oh, it tastes great, and then you forget about it like 5 minutes later. So when you learn a skill, just like martial art, at some point you can rely on that. You could teach, or you could play, you could make money out of it. So it's a skill, and people don't think when they spend their money. And I try to tell people, and some people are like, hey, 30-minute lesson, you cut the lesson 1 minute short. And usually, like, either way, client is 1 minute late, and they are like, well, I pay you like full amount. And I'm like, look, I could tell you one thing and it could change your life. So it doesn't have to be like 30-minute lesson. It could be like even 10 minutes, and I could motivate you, and I could change your mind, and that could change your life in the music. So those are the challenges, and getting leads are a little bit hard too. Like, you try Google, Instagram, you try Facebook, and I talk with my friends who owns businesses, and at some point one works, the other one doesn't work out. Sometimes you stay in Google for 6 months, you have to stay another 6 months, it doesn't work. Sometimes, you make an Instagram post and, thousands of people see it. Sometimes only one people or five people responds. So those are really, you have to try it out. So you never know. Like it may work for some person because it could be a lucky day, or maybe they did like really good research on it, or they did good. They had like a really good webmaster and people around them, so it works for them. But you try it and it doesn't work. So those are the obstacles that we are getting, leads and making people believe that art is very important. It's your skill. But on the other hand, like as far as the good things, like we do have really good, great clients that they believe in us, because we treat them as a family. One thing different about our school, or I do it and I want to do it better. I know all of my clients. I know their names. I know their kids. I know what's going on in their lives. Like I will be asking like, hey, what's going on? So it's almost like a family, like that type of thing. It's like, it's not like you come in, like you don't know the owner, you don't know who's running this place. So there are really good things happening. And I guess like, whatever we have been doing, like with the good energy, like we had been like pulling good people, and our family, or like our clients, they always want us to grow. Like so whenever I ask reviews, or whenever I ask something, they always support us. And I do the same thing. If somebody opens a business and they're trying something, I try to support them, at least get them some kind of present. So the good thing is like we are getting like a big family each day, and I really like that as far as having a music school and able to teach music and art to people.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that was very, very thorough on your challenges and your, the things that y'all are doing that have been working for y'all. And what would you say has been the biggest benefit of that personal touch? I mean, off the bat, I can think, your
Mhm.
retention rate of your clients must be pretty high if they, feel like they're part of a family. It's not as easy to leave whenever you have that personal touch. So would you say that's been working pretty well for y'all, in terms of your retention rate?
Yeah, I mean it does, because I mean, like think about it. Like you are walking in a place like HEB or Costco, you see someone and you're like, "Hey, you look beautiful today," or I like that
Mm,
smile, or I like your hair. It's that type of thing, and you are like, life is already can be challenging, and somebody tells you something good, and you are like, "Wow, that's good. I didn't think about that." So you get that attention, and I do like that when people tell me something good. So I try to do the same thing to my clients, because they might be having difficulty. Maybe kids are not doing good, economy is not good, like maybe politics, and then you tell them something nice, or ask something about their family, and then next time, like you see that they are doing the same thing to you, and they're like, hey, how can I help you? How can I support your business? Can I take a flyer, or can I email this person? So we got a lot of connections just because of saying hello, hey, you look beautiful, and I like that smile. Like even those things turn out to be bigger things.
yeah. So that personal, that touch, that hospitality not only increases your retention rate, but also gives people a reason to come back. And they say like, I like that. I like how that made me feel. It's personal. It doesn't feel like I'm just another number on a screen. I'm not just another membership. I'm a person that this person wants to teach and wants to help me grow. And you mentioned also how, one of your goals is to get this information out in front of people that says like skills like music are things that you can leverage to make money, and you can teach
Mm-hmm.
people and you can go gigging. And apart from the hobbyist, if anybody wants to do professional work, you can say like, hey, you don't have to just do this as a hobby, you can make this a profession. And then you tell them your story and say like, hey, look at me, look where I started. I was serving at a restaurant and I met a music school owner and I became the owner later on, right?
Right.
Like those
Right.
types of stories, getting that in front of people, I think must be incredibly important. So,
Not only making money, also like, imagine that you're already doing good, you don't need money, but you're looking for a service, right? So you start playing the
yes.
guitar and you call like a retirement home or like a hospice center, and you're like, hey, can I come and play? And you're just doing your service, and that's a
Yeah.
skill. So that I think that's very important too.
Yeah, to give back. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't know how to give back. I don't want to just give my money to, a bunch of charities because I don't know where the money's going." It's like, well, leveraging the guitar as a skill can be one of those things that you give back to the community, and it makes you feel better about yourself, and you're giving back to the community that you love. So I think that's a great thing to get out in front of people. I wish more people knew that. And I wish more people were like yourself, being able to teach others, use it as a business, but also give back to the community. So with these challenges and which these things that you're doing, right, that have been working for you, all of this coming together, where do you see your academy? Where do you see yourself wanting to go in the next 6 to 12 months? Are there any goals that you guys have already lined up or anything that you've been thinking about wanting to reach some milestones? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I have, a couple of goals. Like we always have meetings and, we talk about what we want. So I have a number in my mind that I want to reach out. And once I reach out that number, I think it's going to grow a lot faster. So I feel like I am on the, because this is my seventh year and I feel like I'm in the breaking point. And once I break that number in my head, like the student numbers, then I think it's gonna skyrocket after that. And I think it's gonna be like a lot bigger. But as far as like the other plans, at the school, like we just want to make sure, we want to grow like that number, and we want to make sure when we are growing, we want to serve the same way, like so that we still know the people's name and we still care about them. So we don't want to lose our path along that way, because a lot of times when you get bigger, then you stop caring about people. You are like, hey, I have numbers and we can lose 35 people. That's okay. I don't want to do that. So that's part of the goal. But other than the music school, I'm actively playing too. So I'm still like, recording, albums, and I have a band. We are touring, we play, like we will be in the radio shows and we have a lot of shows coming. So I do want to grow at the same time. Like I do want to have a lot of concerts. The reason I want to do it because I love playing. I love that excitement, even though I get super nervous in the performances. I love that. But at the same time, as a teacher, I am a role model. So like a lot of times when I see like people are teaching, which is great, and a lot of my friends are great teachers or a lot of people that I know. But the thing is, every once in a while, the kid might be like, hey, you're a teacher, but do you have any performances, right? Like, can you show me how it's done? And I'm like, I'm out at the field. I'm like, hey, you can come to the university concert, or I'm playing at this place, so that I kind of like make them ready for both things, not only teaching, but at the same time, or not only growing as a music school, but at the same time, performances. And I can see like you can do two things at the same time and they can kind of connect with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are some great goals. I think that you're being so specific in what you want is going to contribute a lot to your success in the next 6 to 12 months, knowing exactly where you want to be, what those numbers are, and of course, maintaining that personal touch in all of your endeavors. So, given that one of the things that you have right now as an obstacle is time management, what would you say would be the impact of having more time to achieve those goals in your business and in your personal performance? Let's say you were able to free up an extra, let's say even just 5 to 10 hours per week. What would that look like in your business? How transformative would that be?
Yeah, it's really, it's a great question, and I will answer it in a different way because I look at the perspectives. So sometimes when I'm free, I spend a lot of time doing some other things. Like I would always put myself like, hey, let me do this, let me help this guy, or let me go work out 2 more hours today. Like it's kind of that type of thing. So I could easily spend my time. So if you give me that time, like extra time, I gotta make sure that I'm using it efficiently. Not necessarily time, but I gotta able to make my notes and able to say, okay, I have 10 extra hours. How can I make it better? So I probably need to write it down. Okay, maybe 5 hours marketing, right? 3 hours flyers, posters, 2 hours calling the clients and to see how are they doing. So if I do that, then I could be more successful. But if I do vice versa, like, okay, 10 hours, like my schedule is going to open up after May 17 because our finals are going to be done at the college. So if I lay back, if I say, hey, let me, go to martial art, let me do something else, then that won't be beneficial. But I really need to focus and write it down what I am going to do in that extra 10 hours. And if I can do that, then I think really like, I can skyrocket with the business, and I can absolutely get more clients. So does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
That answers it perfectly because I think you gave the most honest answer that anybody could give, which is like, hey, honestly, if I had more free time, of course I'd want to go to the gym. Of course I'd like to take more time to spend with my wife. Of course I would want to go and read a book or to walk around a park with my extra time. But you're saying, you know what? If I had that extra time, my biggest challenge would be knowing how to use it most efficiently. So time management, because, there's a saying that says, people have done a lot more with a lot less because they know how to use their time in the most efficient, effective way. And being that you are both owner, manager, operator, and musician on the side, time management is going to be one of the most important things to contribute to the success of all your endeavors in the next 6 to 12 months, as according to what you've been telling me. Um,
Hmm. I
so,
want to add one more thing. I know you have another question, but one other good thing that I learned from Carlos, the owner, like the first owner of Institute of Musical Arts, was um every time I, like talk to him, like he will be like, "Hey, I have a meeting," or I'm gonna get into meeting. So what I figured out is, I'm not sure, maybe I might be wrong, but I took it as a lesson. Not everything is a meeting, but if you make it as a meeting, then everybody's gonna think it's something serious. Even like my wife, like, I will tell her,
mhm.
even I have a lunch with a friend, I'm like, hey, I'm going to a meeting, because it could be a meeting. Like I could learn from a friend, but when I say that, nobody touches my time. But if I say, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym, and they may say like, hey, can you help me out along the way? But when you say meeting, nobody touches you. So that was one of the lessons that I learned. I'm like, when I have something, I'm like, hey, I have a meeting, and that kind of
Yeah.
cuts it off.
It's funny that you mentioned that because you're right. Whenever you label things as something like that, people tend to say, like, oh, he's in a meeting. This is important. This is business work. But when you think about it, everything, even something as simple as like going to the gym or eating a meal with a friend, those are all things that contribute to your business. You're a business
Hmm.
owner. And so everything that you do will in some way affect your business. And so you can say like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym with a friend." Instead of saying that, you say something like, "I have a health and wellness meeting with an associate."
Exactly.
Right? Like, and I will
Exactly.
be gone
Exactly.
for 2 hours, right? And that makes you, it prioritizes what you need to prioritize, but it also demands some respect from the people that, want to get you in different places, right? So
Yes. Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's one of those things that is an excellent time management skill that people don't really use. They underestimate the value of labeling your time for other people. So that was a
Yes.
great
Yes.
addition. And so I
Thank you.
won't keep you much longer. I just have two more questions for you here. First question is going to be super simple, which is if you could solve one challenge today in your business, what would it be?
One challenge today.
Yeah. If it could be gone today and it wasn't there anymore, you said, okay, this is settled, this is good to go, what would it be?
Um, being more organized, meaning like, getting like better at SOP, just like able to put things in order, so that like if I hire somebody else as a manager, they could like find everything from the computer, like, hiring a person or welcoming a person, or, I mean, which I have all of those things, but, that one thing would be like putting into a big file, and like somebody who doesn't know anything about it, they are like, okay, forms for instructors, and they click on it, they have their 1099 forms or W2 forms, and then client feedback, like they click on it, they see the client feedback, so that will be like, sitting down, and I think it's a bigger project, but that will be like a one big thing for me, like able to get a better SOP. I think it's system operational procedure, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's creating, I think that was a perfect answer because again, it's, most of the time you'll talk to owners and they know kind of what they need to do, but because they're spread so thin, they can't really think off the bat like what could really help me right now. They think, "Oh, they'll say something like I need to get more leads, I need to get more client referrals and testimonials." But like, "Hey, the one most high leverage thing that I could do is free up my time by creating these SOPs that would facilitate the process for my employees so that I can take my hands off of it and focus on different things." And so, great answer and also a great goal to have. so that
Exactly.
you can.
Like one other example that I'm doing is like I had been keeping a journal for last 4 or 5 years. And that journal is not only for me, but like we don't have kids yet, but along the way, like hopefully we will have kids and everything like
Hmm.
that. In there, like I mean, I write my days and like I write like what happened, like the concerts or appreciations or whatever I have. But at the same time, I write my health issues too because I'm pushing to and
Hmm.
like like when you get into different levels, you will hear from people like, oh, when you hit 30s, you will see that. Like when you hit 20s, you will see that. And sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't see it. But whatever I see is like whatever my father or mother is having. Sometimes I have the same things. Like you will eat certain food and it will bother you. And like, and if like my father would have told me, hey, don't eat this, which he actually tells me, like when I drink milk, like if it bugs me, I ask my dad, hey, does that? He's like, yeah, it started like at the age of, he wouldn't know exactly, but now because I'm writing it, I know exactly what's happening with my body. Like what's, like if I drink more than 3 coffees, like maybe I cannot fall asleep, or when I drink more than 3 coffees, I feel like I'm gonna faint, like I feel like I don't have enough water in my body, or if I eat a heavy meal, then I get sleepy in the day, or if I don't get my sleep, then next day I'm miserable. So those things, I'm even writing those things, or even the medication that I take, which helps and which doesn't help, because it's not going to work for everyone. Like somebody's going to say, hey, take vitamin C. Maybe my levels are good, but maybe magnesium is going to work for me. So I even write those things down. Hey, I've been trying this for last month. Like it's been great. Like I feel more energy. So I'm trying to do everything. And along the way, if somebody wants to read it, or if I forget it, I could go back. Hey, well, I had this problem in 2021. I had headaches, and what caused it? Oh, maybe I had too much coffee. Maybe I didn't get my sleep. Maybe I was stressed. So I can kind of track what happened. So
Yeah. An SOP for yourself. And, it's a personal SOP that increases your productivity. It increases, your well being and how you feel, because all of those things, like we talked about earlier, everything that we do in our personal lives affects the things around us. It affects our relationships, it affects our business life, it affects everything around us. So I think it's an excellent thing to do in your personal life, is to organize that and keep track of it, because we keep track of metrics in our business. We know how many leads are
mhm,
coming in, how many people are converting. But one thing that
mhm,
we don't do is we don't say, well, what's going into my body? What's going into
mhm.
my mind? How much rest am I getting? So I think that's an
Because
excellent
you
thing.
could have time, right? But you have a headache, then you are like, hey, I
Hmm.
can't work. I need to lay down. So it's like all 10 hours is gone.
Yeah.
So, that's why we need to make sure, like first thing is the health, and we need to manage that, because I do see a lot of people that I don't admire. Is I'm looking at, oh my god, he has such a great business, but I look at him, he's not sleeping, he's working extra hours, not working out, not eating healthy. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's great, you made a lot of money, but where are you going to spend? Or like how is that going to go for the future if you're not healthy? Or you're not going to able to see, like you dreamed of that dream traveling, right? Like you're like, hey, I want to go do this, like that's my goal. And then at the time, like you do everything, you're a millionaire, and then now you don't have your health. So you failed
Exactly.
in the first basic area.
Exactly. We don't want to make those sacrifices, because those affect the rest of our lives. So, I think we'll wrap up with this last question. You've been incredibly helpful. You've been very informative on all these things in your industry. I feel like I know all about how to manage and run a music school now. So I think the last thing that I'd like to ask you, for anybody that would be listening to this someday in the future, is what is one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring musician or a music educator?
Do what you love, and like have some kind of like respect for yourself. Like what I mean is, like like live with your truths, like and it connects in a way, like if you like flamenco, right? Yeah, you can study classical, but if you believe in that, keep going with that. Like don't stop with the obstacles that it's gonna go along the way. Like flamenco and classical guitar can be combined at some point because of the technical and
Mm,
scales and all those kind of things. So make up your mind and follow that goal, and just look at the big picture. Don't fall apart because you don't like classical or you don't like to learn something. So look at the big picture and just go to that direction. Like don't let anything distracting you. Respect what you have in mind and be kind of stubborn about it and keep going. And I think that's very important.
Thank you again for joining us today and for sharing
Sure,
some
sure,
of
sure.
these industry insights and something about your personal life. I think your story will inspire a whole lot of people in the time that you're going to be working on this. And I congratulate you again on many years of success. And I hope and pray for many, many more. So thanks again for your time, Berk.
Thank you so much for the great questions and hosting me today. Thank you. Thank you, Herman.
Of course. Thank you, Berk.